TitleMatchNetwork.com.
Wrestling fans, we're here with the one and the only Spike Dudley of the Dudley Boys.
He's cool. Guy with the money just came in, so we're all good.
All right.
It's cool. Okay.
Well, Spike, what we normally like to do is ask you how, were you a fan growing up and how you got started in the business?
I was the biggest fan in the world growing up. I grew up in New England, so it was WWF in the mid to late 70s when I was a kid. I was always the biggest fan in the world. I loved it from the first second I saw it. I started going to shows when I was about 12 years old, going probably to Civic Center, Jack Witchy's Arena. Any show I could go to, I would go to. Early 80s, I would consider myself an old school fan, compared to today's, version of wrestling. But I definitely was brought up in the old school mentality of it, like where I really hated the heels and I really loved the baby faces, and I was a true fan.
So how did you like watching it as a kid? Was it? I guess it's going back into the first question. Do you see it change? So you saw it change?
Oh yeah. I consider myself in that last battalion of people, of fans that looked at wrestling as a shoot. Like the fans that actually hated the heels and loved the baby faces when wrestling was presented as a shoot sport. Obviously today it's fake, the F word. It's World Wrestling Entertainment. We know it's not a real competition. But when I first got into it, we didn't know that. We thought it was still real. So I consider myself that last battalion of fans that came into it when the business was still a shoot and it was kayfabe and and all that stuff. So yeah, so it's cool. I consider myself the last generation of true fans.
When did you know you wanted to get a shot and get into the business?
The first time I saw when I was maybe 5 years old, I was watching Saturday morning wrestling with my older brothers. And it was, I'll never forget, it was Chief Jay Strongbow and Billy White Wolf against the Masked Executioners. And Billy White Wolf got his neck broke. And this was like 75, 76, and I was hooked. I was like 5 years old, and I knew right from that moment on that pro wrestling was what I wanted to do.
Yeah. Were you discouraged at all early on because of your size, or considering that the fact smaller guys, they always said smaller guys couldn't make it in this business?
No, when I started in the early 90s, the cruiser, there was no cruiserweight thing for one. There was no cruiserweight. There was no junior heavyweight. There was nothing. There was the big guys. When I started getting into it, it was me, it was Rey Mysterio, and it was Mikey Whipwreck. And maybe Billy Kidman. We were like the 3 or 4 guys that were under 200 pounds that were in the business trying to make it. And, aside from that, there was nothing. And we were the guys that paved the way. You know what I mean? We were the little guys, whether I won or lost, wherever, I was on TV in the ring with the Bam Bam Bigelows and the one-man gangs and the monsters. I was one of the first, and now you see everybody's under 200 pounds. For 100 years, pro wrestling was a big man sport. Right. So when I got into it, it was weird. Like they didn't accept the little guy, and I was a freak. And that was my gimmick, was that I was 140 pounds in there with these 200, 250, 300 pounders. And now in 10 years, it's become the norm that everybody is 200 pounds and under. And now the freak is the big guy. Wrestling's changed, But no, I think I was definitely there to pave the way for the little guy.
Now, you were a third grade teacher. When did you decide that you were going to make a wrestling your full-time career?
I knew I wanted to be in wrestling even before I went into third grade teaching. It was just a matter of finding a way to get into it. I graduated college. I was teaching third grade. That was my day job, my straight job. But I found a pro wrestling school on the side, and that was where my heart took me. So, I was doing the pro wrestling. I had my day job as a third grade teacher to support my wrestling habit. Right. And it was after about 3-4 years of paying my dues, really, working a day job to support my wrestling habit, that I finally made was able to make a living out of pro wrestling.
So how long did you continue teaching once when you was in ECW or?
Well, no, I got out of college in 92. I started training in 92. It was about that time. I did 2 years of the third grade teaching. And then 2 years of training, doing the indies in the California circuit, and it took me, let's say I started in 92, I got hired in 96. It took me about 4 years of paying my dues, building, whatever it is, the local scene, building up your credentials until I got hired by ECW. But it was 4 years of dues paying before I started to make, wrestling a living out of my job. Does that make sense? Make what I mean? Make a living out of wrestling.
As a former teacher, what are your thoughts on Matt Stryker, who as a teacher used to use sick time to wrestle in Japan and got caught and got fired as a teacher?
Whatever. He just got caught in the bullshit. He's a wrestler at heart. He's just like me. I mean, the wrestling was his side job to support his wrestling habit. So good for him. God bless him. He's a hell of a worker. I mean, his wrestling job was just something to support his teaching job was something to support his living while he made it in wrestling. Now he's made it in wrestling, so God bless him.
How did you meet Roland Alexander?
That was the guy. I moved out to California. I was watching Saturday morning wrestling, and a commercial came on. Hey, so you want to be a pro wrestler? Well, it was Roland Alexander, who was the guy that owned the school. So I called him up. Roland owned the school that I trained at. That was it. I called him up. Hey, can I get a job? Or can I, at the very least get trained to be a manager, a wrestler, referee, whatever it is. And that's where it started.
Do y'all still communicate now? Or?
No, I haven't talked to Roland in years. He's a piece of shit.
Any stories you want to share about Roland? Or?
No, I mean, his record speaks for himself. He's a guy that started off with good intentions, but thought that, he knew what the business was about, and he's never taken a bump in his life. So, I mean, he just tried to bushwhack the boys, and I won't be bushwhacked. How's that?
Memories of training, any fond memories you have from training? Or?
I loved my training days. Are you kidding? It was great. I was getting beat up. I mean, all these big guys that, supposedly the guys that had potential. These guys, they would take advantage of me and they try to beat the shit out of me and all that, but I didn't care. I loved it, I loved to wrestle. I loved to be a part of it. I didn't care if they beat me up, if they made me look bad, whatever. I just wanted to be a part. So getting my ass kicked, I was just paying my dues.
What are your memories of Chris Daniels?
I don't have much with Chris Daniels. I mean, Chris came in for maybe 2 matches in ECW and that was it. I didn't work. I think he worked with Nova in ECW, and then he came in and he left. So I mean, I don't. I always got along with him fine. He was a good guy, hell of a worker, but I don't have any professional experience with him. So
Donovan Morgan.
I trained Donovan. I mean, Donovan was one of the guys when I was teaching back in the day. He was one of my first students. So, I mean, he'll admit to it. He was one of the guys I broke into the business. Donovan's just one of those guys that loves the business, and just wanted to suck up knowledge and suck up talent and do whatever you can. I mean, he's a good guy. He just wanted to do what was best for the business.
Mike Modest.
Mike broke me in. Mike was one of the guys that taught me the ins and outs and the do's and the don'ts, and I owe an awful lot to Mike Modest. For all intents, he was my main teacher my first 2 years breaking in.
What are your memories of your matches out west with Aaron O'Grady?
I didn't work with Crash. He was on a couple of shows that we worked together, but I never worked against him. He was a kid Crash was talented. I mean, he knew the business, So in California, when I was first breaking in, he was already established. So he came in and he worked on some cards that I worked with, but I never worked against him or with him. When I got to ECW, Paulie and Taz and Tommy Dreamer, those guys, do you know anybody else from California? And I said, yeah, Crash and, Vic Grimes and Robert Thompson. There were some guys. And they gave Crash a chance. And Crash, you know, he had his own personal problems. It didn't work out in ECW, but he got a job from WWF. In California, I don't know anything about Crash. I met him and developed my relationship with him in WWE. So, I mean, all I can say is we broke in the same area. But I don't know anything about his background, you know. I didn't develop my rapport with him until we got to New York.
How were you contacted? Were you contacted by ECW, or did you contact them?
I sent out. I made a little video of highlights of my matches, my indie matches in California for the past 2-3 years, and sent out a little promo tape to everybody. And I guess Taz or Tommy Dreamer or Paulie, somebody in ECW saw it and said, "Hey, we'll call this guy. You know, he looks like he has potential." So I had a call from him, and I was working my day job.
So you were still teaching at this time?
No, I was in a financial printing company. It was I had switched. I had done my 2 years of teaching. And I was just looking for a day job to support my wrestling habit, so I got an office job. It was a financial printing firm. It had to deal with Wall Street and all that sort of bullshit, and whatever. It was just an office job. But one day, after I'd sent out my video, I got a call at my office. It was great. It was Perry Sarin, actually. Perry was calling because he was like the representative from ECW. We got your video and we like it, but we want to see more matches. So I said, okay, fine, I'll send you some matches. So aside from a home video of clips, I sent him a few matches, my complete matches, and I got a call a week later back from them. Okay, you look pretty good, kid. Can you move to the East Coast? And I said, well, yeah, I can move to the East Coast. So I packed up my shit from California, drove 3,000 miles, whatever it was, moved out to Long Island, and there we go. And I started in ECW, and that was it.
So before ECW, did you know anybody that was already in ECW?
No. I didn't know a soul. I didn't know anybody.
Were you nervous coming into ECW?
Terrified. I was terrified. I had no idea, I mean, I'd seen a little bit of ECW on TV, and I thought it was just crazy violence, But, yeah, but it was on TV. It was wrestling. It was the next step up. So, I mean, I was excited about that, but I was terrified.
What are your initial impressions of Paul Heyman?
Paul's a psycho. Paul's fucking crazy. He's nuts. But there's nobody that has a better mind for the business than Paul E. And Paul E took a look at me, and I was a 140-pound kid, and brother, I can give you a shot. We can, you and me, we're gonna make money. And I went, okay. And I trusted him, and there's nobody. I mean, it's been 5 years I worked with WWE, and Vince paid me a lot of money, and to me, I'd spit on Vince if he was on fire. Paulie, I would give my left nut to. I will always be loyal to Paulie. He's just always done the right thing, always taken care of me, always been a friend. Just made the business mean something. It's not just a job when you're working for Paulie. It's you're passionate.
So do you and Paulie still talk?
Yeah, I'm very close with Paul. He's a good friend.
Were the other guys receptive to you in the locker room at ECW?
Yes and no. Coming in my size, it was freaky, because they already had Mikey Whipwreck as the little underdog guy, and then here comes another little underdog guy. They had little Guido, who was doing the same thing, so. But I think when the guys realized that my attitude, I'm in there. I love the business. I just want to make the guy I'm in the ring with look great. Right. And Bam Bam came up and said, I want to work with this kid. And after like 3 months, I got this giant push working with Bam Bam Bigelow. And after that, I just got along. I had no problems in the locker room. I got along with everybody from Rob to Sabu to Shane Douglas to Taz to the Dudleys. Getting along has never been a problem.
So when you first came into ECW, how receptive was Bubba and Devon towards you?
Well, Bubba's scary. Bubba took me in because I was a Dudley, so I was his responsibility. You know what I mean? And Bubba, anybody that knows anything about Bubba knows he's a hard ass and he's loyal to the business. And all of a sudden, he was given the burden of having to be responsible for me and making sure I do the right thing. Because if I do the wrong thing, then that makes him look bad. You know what I mean? Bubba and I have an incredibly tight relationship. He's my big brother. He's my big father. He's always looked after me. He's always taken care of me. Without Bubba and Devon, I would be nowhere in this business. You know, so I mean, I've got a very, very tight bond with those guys.
So, what was your memories early on working against them?
Oh my God, am I gonna fucking die? I was terrified. My first shot at the ECW arena, I was doing some schmoz and they're throwing me off balconies, and I was fucking terrified because I didn't at that time when I first came into ECW, I didn't think ECW had a rhyme or reason. I thought it was just violence for the sake of violence, like shock radio, that sort of thing. And then once I got there and I realized there was a rhyme behind the reason, you know, and then I figured out, like, wait, there's more. This isn't just senseless bloodshed. We're telling a story behind here. And once I figured out what the story was, then everything seemed cool, you know, and everything started to click. But my first 6 months, I was scared out of my fucking gourd. I thought the place was a shithole. I mean, excuse my cussing.
Oh, this is a shoot. Say whatever you want to say. It's like,
All right.
do you think they were overly stiff with you or with anybody?
If they were, they've yet to tell me. You know what I mean? I mean, if someone wanted to go out and be stiff with me, how do you come back from the locker room after a match and you go, yeah, I really beat the shit out of Spike? Who cares? I'm 140 pounds. You took liberties on me? I mean, fuck you.
That leads into my next
No,
question.
I never had any problem. Because if anybody beat the shit out of me, I didn't know it. If anybody was beating me up, I was laughing at them going, yeah, that was a good one. And then once they realized I could take their shit, well, then no problem, you know? But no, I'll take an ass beating from anybody. I don't care how big they are. No one's going to hurt me after what I've taken.
Did anyone in ECW ever refuse to put you over or sell?
No, hell no. No, we were a group philosophy, man. You know, the underdog thing worked and people realized it, and it was a group effort, and they realized that, like, I've got something that the people relate to and they can connect to. And all it took was that one win with Bam Bam Bigelow. You know, I beat him one time. I didn't have to win a match for the rest of my life. There was always that possibility I could win a match. And that's the beauty of the business. That's the beauty of Bam Bam putting over a little guy like me. I mean, I owe him my whole goddamn career for that one match. But no, I didn't have to win. I didn't care. It didn't matter. I could go out, as long as I busted my ass and the guys knew I was trying hard, it didn't matter whether I won or lost. So I didn't give a shit. You want to beat me? Go ahead, beat me. Who cares?
Since you was talking about Bam Bam, I guess I'll go ahead and ask you about Bam Bam.
Sure.
The Bam Bam Bigelow feud, whose idea was it?
It was his. It was his. He came up to me, kid, I want to work with you. I went, what? He goes, kid, I want to work with you. I went, okay.
Would you say that was a turning point in your career in ECW?
Oh, absolutely. Without a shadow of a doubt. No one saw it coming. That was the beauty of it. You know, everybody talks the Bam Bam Bigelow, the throw, and the mosh pit, and the mosh pit, and the mosh pit. Fuck that. If you look back at the ECW fans, you ask the true ECW fans, what was the big thing about that? That I beat him. You know, that I had that one turning point where Spike beat Bam Bam Bigelow of the triple threat. It was unheard of. I mean, it was such an upset. But it took that one moment. He put me over for 1 second, and it lasted a lifetime. And here we are, 8 years later, we're still talking about it.
Those are classics.
You know? So, I mean, God bless him.
What are your memories of Chris Candido?
I love Chris. I mean, Chris came in. I worked a few matches with him. His first TV match back was against me. Chris was a good guy. He knew the business, knew how to work. You know, it's just, it's sad. This business is fucking sad, man. It tears you up. I mean, I guess I'm a veteran now, you know, but I'm looking at it and I look back at how many guys I've seen come and go, how many guys I've seen die. It's sad. It's fucking horrible. And there's a guy that had all the potential in the world, all the talent in the fucking world. And he let the gimmicks get the better of him. You know, it's horrifying.
What are your memories of Axel Rotten?
I don't know. Axel I knew. Okay. Ian's the other. Okay, Ian Axel. My memory's Axel. Axel, I loved working with Axel. Axel was one of the guys that taught me a fucking lot. You know, I'm actually kind of going, why are you asking me about Axel? Like, why are you bringing that one up? Seriously.
I always remember some of the matches that, you remember some of the matches that you had with Axel?
Axel taught me. Axel taught me the business. Yeah, I mean, Axel was, I do opening matches with him, you know? And it would be very basic, just learning the ropes, learning psychology, basic psychology. I learned as much from Axel as I learned from anybody in the damn company. You know, he's got one of the greatest minds in the world. You know, his own misfortunes have carried him whatever, but you could put Axel in a position as the head booker of WWE, he'd get over just as well as anybody else. You know, he knows that much about the business. That boy taught me a lot, an awful lot. I owe him a lot.
Were you caught in the middle of the problems between Aaron and everyone else in ECW?
Who's Aaron?
I guess was he part of like the ring crew in ECW or?
Apparently, I don't know what you're talking about with Aaron and the ring crew. So I was on ring crew for 2.5 years, and I don't even know who Aaron was. So I'm kind of confused by your question.
Are you talking about maybe Crash Holly?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, I mean I'm serious. I don't know what are you talking about? What problems? I was on ring crew for years, and I didn't have any problems. So, and I don't even know who Aaron is.
Okay. Initial thoughts on Taz?
No, go back to that one. Who's Aaron?
I guess it was some guy that.
I mean, is that what you're talking about?
Assuming so. It was reported that y'all had a problem. Everybody had a problem with him in ECW.
With Crash?
Yeah, with Crash.
Okay. I'm sorry. All right, so now let's rephrase the question. Now I know what you're talking about. Okay. What was the question?
Were you caught in the middle of the problems with Crash and everyone else?
No. Crash's problem was he was moving from California to New York, getting paid $75 a night like everybody else, and was terrified. You know, I mean, what the hell? You move from California, you move across the country, and you're getting paid bullshit money just for the chance to be on TV, just to be a part of ECW. Crash's problem was, Jesus Christ, I'm moving across the world. I'm leaving my wife and my daughter, and you know, Crash's problem had nothing to do with his work ethic or who he was. It was his family shit. You know, so I mean, no, I was there for anything that happened with Aaron's ring crew problem, and there was no problem there other than he missed his daughter and he missed his wife.
I know it was a big talk of him and Taz had a problem back in ECW. That was part of the reason why he left. Or
I think Crash missed his daughter. If Taz had a problem with him, talk to Taz. I never heard about any of that. You know what I mean? Like it really came down to Crash. You can't ask somebody to drop your life and move 3,000 miles and then be given shit. Yeah, I mean, that's Crash's problem. I mean, he moved out, he gave it a shot. Okay, I'm going to move cross country in my RV or whatever. He was in a pickup truck. He was living in a parking lot, all for the opportunity to work for ECW. You know, so, I mean, if Crash was having problems, those are the problems any fucking normal human being would have moving 3,000 miles for any job. So, no, there was no headache. Crash had a hard time adjusting. You know, him and Taz, their problems, it's all bullshit. You ask Taz right now what he thinks of Crash, he'll tell you he's a fucking kick-ass guy, he's a class act, he was good for the business. Any bullshit you're bringing up about, you know, Crash moving 3,000 miles 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago, you're stirring shit up where it doesn't belong. You know what I mean? Crash just wanted to work. Crash just wanted to wrestle. And he did that.
What are your initial thoughts on Taz?
Taz? I owe the world to Taz. Why are you trying to bury Taz? This is 2 double fucking bury Taz questions.
Oh, no.
Taz out of heat with the internets. Taz, I owe the world to Taz. Taz was one of the guys that looked at my video and goes, okay, I'm going to give this guy a job. I don't know who he is. He lives in California. That's 3,000 miles away, but he's got potential. He sounds okay on the phone. We're going to give him a shot. If Taz didn't have the confidence in me to give me my opening match, I would have been done. You know, Paulie might have looked at me, Dreamer might have looked at me, but Taz was the guy that said, okay, give him an opportunity, let him move out and see what he's got. So without Taz giving the okay that, yeah, this little Spike guy, he's okay, I wouldn't have a career. I owe Taz everything.
Oh, I'm not trying to bear him. Just got a lot of respect. I have a lot of respect for Taz. A lot of respect.
But it's too questions. You guys are trying to stir up shit. And you're trying to stir up shit where there was no shit to be stirred up.
Right. There
really wasn't. You know, that's how this internet bullshit gets out.
What are your thoughts on Tommy Dreamer?
In what? He's fat. I mean, what do you want to know? He's a good guy. He's one of my best friends in the business. He's one of the guys from ECW that has always given me a shot. You know, what can I tell you? He's a good guy. Yeah, he's true to the business.
A lot of people say good things about Tommy. What are your thoughts on teaming with Mikey?
Mikey Whipwreck?
Mm-hmm.
I love Mikey Whipwreck. Again, we're cut from the same mold. I mean, we were two of the little guys in, you know, we started off 95, 96 when there weren't little guys. You know, Mikey and I and you know, who else was out there? Billy Kidman, maybe Rey Mysterio, were a handful of these cruiserweights that were paving the way. You know what I mean? So I mean, we were some of the originators of the little guys. You would never see the AJ Styles and all of that TNA and the cruiserweight and the X Division if it hadn't been for the stuff 10 years ago that we were doing when we were in there with the big guys. And Mikey, his stuff with Austin, his stuff with Cactus,
awesome.
Is legendary. You know, it's beautiful work.
What are your thoughts that you had with the FBI? That was some of the best matches.
I love the FBI. I mean, aside, okay, let's break it down. Guido, Little Nuns, is one of my dearest friends in the world. I mean, there's nobody I'm tighter with than Guido. Tracy and Tommy Rich are just two absolute legends. I mean, in any sense of the book, they can teach you. I learned so much from those guys, so much from them. You know, just the little things. I love every single one of them. I owe an awful lot to them. You know, what can I tell you? It's a great, and I love the gimmick. Get ready for the fever of the day. I love the FBI. I really do. I love the whole gimmick.
What are your thoughts on teaming with New Jack against the Dudleys?
You know what? New Jack did a lot for me, you know. It was a nice combination, you know, where I would go in and do a lot of the bumps and do a lot of the wrestling. New Jack would do a lot of the, you know, the super high flying stuff, but it wound up being a nice combination. It got me on a lot of ECW pay-per-views. It was great, you know, like any relationship I had with New Jack, it just got me over. It was great. You know, I loved New Jack. I loved his work. I loved working with him. It did nothing but make me money. You know, so it was cool.
At what point in your career did you think, wow, I made it?
I guess when me and Balls were doing the run with the Dudleys, and we were trading the tag team titles back and forth. But that was no, you know what? Let me scratch that. When I finally did the main event with Mike Awesome, I think it was like 97, 98, or no, it was maybe a couple of years, like 2000 maybe. But that a guy my size as a singles wrestler was running the main event for ECW. That I think that was kind of like when my confidence kicked in and went like, oh yeah, I have a place in this business. You know, like I've earned my spot. You know, but I think that was it.
What are your thoughts on the matches that you had with Rhino?
I loved working with Rhino. It was great. You know, I mean, it was fun. He's a big giant guy. He beat the shit out of me. You know, but good chemistry. You know, and Paulie knew how to book it, and I like working with him. He's a hell of a worker.
What did you think when Paul told you he was giving you the tag team titles?
Paul, I don't think ever told me he was giving me the tag team titles. I mean, whatever. I mean, it was just another day at the office, you know? We were just going to go in, we were going to work the schmoz, Yeah, it was gonna be me and Balls against Bubba and Devon, and we were gonna get blood and beat the fuck out of each other. But on this night, we were going over. Great. I didn't think much of it. You know what I mean? Like, I don't give a shit about that stuff. I just want to go out and be able to perform. I just want to have an audience to go out there and get in the ring. I don't care whether I win or lose, but you know, it's when they told me, okay, we're gonna get the straps. Wonderful, great, cool.
How did ECW change when Taz left? Or did it change in your opinion?
Well, it changed that whole time. When Taz left and then Dudley's left, I think the feeling in the locker room was that we were just a breeding ground for the WWF. You know what I mean? And I think for a long time we were anti-WWF. Let's go out and schmoz and let's brawl and let's do ECW and Extreme. And then all of a sudden guys started getting picked up by New York. And then we realized, wait a second, this company is just another tool of Vince's. And, you know, the second anybody gets over, he's just going to take them and grind them out. It was a blow. You know, like this whole time we've been working, trying to say, fuck you, WWF, fuck you, WCW. We're here for violence and wrestling and for fan entertainment. And then we realized, wait a second, we're just a training ground for them. The second anybody gets over, we have to go to them.
Right.
It was kind of like a kick in the balls. You know, it was a shock.
Which departure surprised you the most? Raven, Saturn, Taz, or Mike Awesome when they left ECW? What surprised you? Or did it affect you at all?
Well, Taz leaving was probably the biggest one. You know, because we devoted so much to Taz, you know, to the Taz Sabu run and all that. So when Taz decided to pick up and leave, I think that was pretty much the biggest blow to the company because it was our top guy. You know, and all of a sudden our top guy picks up and goes, and you know what happens to anybody that leaves the company and goes to WWF, they're going to be a little fucking jobber and get squashed out.
Watered down.
So, yeah. So I think Taz leaving was definitely the biggest surprise. I mean, once they left, then Dudley's going, that only seemed to make sense. Yeah, you can make more money there, go ahead, you know. But Taz was the biggest blow.
What do you remember about the whole deal with Mike Awesome?
You know, that happened. I had worked that last pay-per-view, and I blew my knee out that match. So I was done. I was out for about 6 months following that match. And then it was, you know, and then Mike got the offer to go. It sucked because Rob Van Dam was out with a broken knee. Taz had just left. The Dudleys had just left. We were trying to build our own product around, you know, Mike Awesome and the Rhinos and things. And ECW had finally gotten TNN on national TV. And then, you know, he took the world title and picked up and left. It was scummy. You don't do that, you know. That's fucked up, you know. Because, I mean, so many guys worked hard to get him over and establish him as a credible world champion. And the second he got some credibility, well, fuck you, I'm gonna go to WCW and ride the Partridge Family bus. You know, I mean, it was a bit of a blow. It was disheartening.
Were you ever contacted by WCW when you was in ECW?
Yeah, I was. Right after Bubba and Devon left, Big Dick was still alive, and I think there was some thought of doing a Dudley thing against them, bringing in Big Dick and Spike, you know, on WCW's end to counter Bubba and Devon going to WWE. But I had a good thing going, and I didn't have any interest. No, I wasn't going to go unless they were offering me a mad amount of money, and they weren't. So I just blew it off. I'll stick with ECW. It's home.
At what point did you realize there were problems in ECW?
I had faith with them that the company would continue, you know, until it was actually over. You know, Paulie always was screwing around. There was always problems. You know, the check bouncing, this and that. But I always thought ECW would stick around. I didn't see it folding. You know, even when they came out and said we're folding, I thought it was just kind of a scam and it was going to come back in a couple of months. I never really believed it was going to die. Until I started working in WWE, I always thought there was going to be ECW.
Did you have in your mind a breaking point where if things didn't turn around by this time, you had a backup plan?
No, my backup plan was, goddamn, I hope New York picks me up. And they did, you know. So, no, I didn't get to that point. Now I'm at that point with breaking, you know. What do I do if there's, you know, life without wrestling, that sort of thing. But 5 years ago, no, I wasn't feeling that at all.
Going back to Mike Awesome, what do you remember about the night you injured your knee against Mike Awesome?
Fuck, this is the main event of a pay-per-view. I have to finish the match. You know, I blew my knee out about halfway through, and I knew I had about 5 more tables to go through. I was just terrified. I just wanted to finish the match, you know.
Did you feel any pressure from the office to return early?
No, not at all. Because, in fact, Paul even gave me the gimmick of being like the announcer. I came out and he called me the head booker, you know. I mean, he gave me a talking role when he knew my body wasn't working. So no, not with ECW. No, there was never any pressure to come back until I was healthy. No, they always treated me well. I never had any problems with ECW.
You have any good road stories you'd like to share?
Road stories?
Mm-hmm.
No. Yeah, I got a lot of road stories, but you got to get me in the bar somewhere and talk to me personally, one-on-one. I'm not going to bury anybody.
Okay.
Ain't that right, chicken shit? Yeah, old school never dies.
What do you think made ECW so successful? And at what point do you think ECW was at its highest point?
What made it special was the guys were willing to work hard and the fans appreciated it. And there was a mutual admiration, you know. The highest point had to be probably those last 6 months before Taz and Bubba and Devon left. You know, when Rob was still healthy and Sabu and all that was riding high, probably around 98, 99. Fan interest, our house shows were awesome. I would say would be the biggest interest.
What are your memories on the final ECW pay-per-view? What was going through your mind that night?
That one WWE?
No, the real ECW. I call it the real ECW with Paul Heyman.
See, I never believed it was going to end. There was a lot of people who were sitting around with the mopey face and all that, going, this is our last show. I never believed it. You know, I to this day, if you ask me, I never would have believed that ECW would have folded. There was no reason for it to fold. We had a great audience. We had money backing us. We had TV. So there was all sorts of rumors of us folding. I didn't believe it. You know, I was just in denial the whole time.
It has become public that Paul was under contract to the WWE before ECW actually closed. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I believe all of it. Whatever you just reported to me is, until you show me the piece of paper where it's signed, I think it's all internet bullshit. You know, I mean, WWF was definitely working with ECW 5 years ago, trying to keep us supported because they were getting talent from us, you know, for them. But I don't know the ins and outs, and I mean, I don't know any of that shit that was going on between Paulie and Vince 10 years ago. So, I mean, I can't comment on it. I wasn't there. I don't know the behind the scenes stuff.
What do you remember about the ECW XPW angle?
Well, those California idiots.
Yeah.
I remember a bunch of kids got their ass kicked in the alley, you know, of a show. But I don't know. There was a group of from California that thought they wanted to fuck with us, and they came up at one of our pay-per-views in LA and started flashing signs and trying to bust our balls. So we took them in the alley. I was still recovering from my knee surgery. I was actually on crutches. And I remember, we beat the shit out of those kids. I mean, there was nothing. I mean, XPW was a little independent group trying to bolster their name by stepping on our toes. Well, we weren't going to let that happen, and it didn't happen. And a bunch of kids got their ass kicked, and they weren't on TV, and there was bullshit. You know, whoever orchestrated it from XPW was a fucking idiot, and I'm certainly sure he wasn't there to get his ass kicked. He just sent his little boys for him.
Moving on to WWE, how different was Paul Heyman in WWE as compared to ECW?
Paulie never changed. Paulie just came out and did his thing, you know. I mean, Paulie will come out and go, this is what's right and this is what's wrong. And, you know, Paulie didn't change one bit. You know, he's been a good friend, a good booker, a good worker. As long as I've known him, he hasn't changed one iota.
Do you see any changes in Bubba and Devon?
No, absolutely not. No, I mean, it's a different business going from ECW to WWE. You know, I mean, you're working. It's not about the fun of wrestling. It's about a payday. It's a job and all that. But we all knew that going in, and no, there's been no changes with me, with my relationship with Bubba or Devon or Paulie or Dream or any of the ECW guys. Our relationship has always been the same.
What are your initial impressions of Jim Ross and Vince McMahon?
Well, Vince is a freak. You know, I mean, like Vince is in his own world. You know, I mean, he's surrounded in his little crazy wrestling world and whatever. JR, I always got along with JR. But JR got out of the office. I mean, he stepped down and Johnny Ace took over. So, I mean, my first couple of years with JR, from a professional relationship, were great. I always got along great with him. If I ever had a problem, I'd go and hit him up with it, and he'd give me an honest answer. I'd get an honest response. Everything was good. Johnny Ace is, you know, whatever. A little different.
How receptive was the locker room to you when you came in?
WWF?
Mm-hmm.
No problems. I already knew most of the guys coming in anyways. You know, they'd seen me in ECW for the 5 years previous, so I didn't have any problems. You know, I think they'd gotten over the little guy stigma, you know. By the time I got to the WWF, everything was cool. You know, I didn't have any problems adjusting.
Was it easier or more frustrating putting spots together in 6-man tags? And can you give examples of it? Basically, was it more difficult?
No, you know, if you're doing a 6-man tag, well, you got 6 guys, but you only have 5 minutes. So, yeah. I mean, it's okay, what's your spot? What's your spot? What's your spot? I mean, everybody picks their spots, and I mean, that's not a problem, you know? 6-man matches, no, that's no big deal. I mean, I don't really appreciate trying to do any match in a short amount of time, but that's what they give you. So, no, I didn't have any problems adjusting to that.
Thoughts on WrestleMania 17, your first WrestleMania?
I loved it. I mean, it was awesome. Are you kidding me? Doing a run-in with 70,000 people there. I mean, that was a TLC match. You know, and I mean, that was just the tip of the iceberg. That whole card was loaded. Oh, what else was there? There was Undertaker, Hunter, and Rock, and Austin. I mean, that card was... And I'd only been in WWE about 3 weeks. You know, I just started, and then all of a sudden I was there at Mania 17. It was awesome. It was incredible. Going from ECW, the little alley, to the world, it was a big difference. It was cool as shit.
How weird was the locker room once the WCW guys started coming in?
Whatever. You know, I mean, like... It wasn't that big of a deal. I mean, I was coming from ECW, so I guess I was one of the outcasts too, but everybody knows everybody. Wrestling's a very small world. You know, there was no, oh, you're WCW, you're evil. You know, we all got along. As long as you were willing to do the right thing out in the ring, nobody had any problems. You know, it was all cool.
How odd was it to be working with Crash on a WWE pay-per-view?
You know, that was a kick. That was a hoot. That was a guy that, you know, I went back to my breaking in days, and, you know, before either one of us were on TV, we were working together, and then a few years later, we meet up in this crazy world and doing, you know, the hardcore. That's what it was, wasn't it? It was like one of those hardcore matches, right? Yeah. I mean, it was a hoot. It was cool as shit, you know.
Whose idea was it for you to start working with Molly Holly?
I don't know. That was just handed to me. Honestly, that just came up. Hey, you know, you and Molly, that you guys look like you have some chemistry, and we're going to go with. And I went, okay. So I don't even know if it was a writing crew, if it was wrestling. I couldn't even tell you.
Knowing she's very religious, was there any problems with her doing?
No, you know what? Me and Molly had great. I love that angle. It was honestly, it was a cool angle. We had good chemistry. There was something about the innocence of the two underdogs. The two, we were both, I mean, maybe at my size and her at not being the typical WWE diva. There was a lot of really natural chemistry between us that worked really, really well. And I don't know who came up with the idea, but I loved it. It was great.
What are your thoughts on Bob Holly? Do you think he really was a bully?
No, Bob, no. Jesus. It is one of those pussy questions. Anybody that is worth anything in this business, you have to pay your dues. And part of your paying dues is getting beat up a little bit in the ring. Right. And what Bob did to that kid wasn't anything bad. I mean, he stiffed him a couple times. So what? Who cares? A fat lip? You fucking kidding me? A fat lip? You're going to cry about that? You want to go through my goddamn injuries and check out my medical record for the past 15 years. A fat lip is the least of my problems. So anybody who wants to complain, Bob Holly gave this kid a fat lip. Who gives a fuck? The kid deserved a fat lip. Bob Holly is good for the business. Bob Holly has always been loyal to the business, been honest to the business, and him taking it, or whatever he did, he roughed up the kid. The kid deserved it. The kid needed it. And, so no problems with Bob Holly. None whatsoever.
Whose idea was it to put you and Taz together?
I don't know. That's another one of those stupid ass writing crew ideas. I don't know. I really don't. I mean, they just come at you one day. Hey, you're going to work with this guy. Okay, cool. I have no idea who came up with that one. I really don't. Probably someone on the writing crew that knows nothing about wrestling.
Thoughts on wrestling at WrestleMania 18 and winning the hardcore title?
I mean, when you were there, Mania was the highlight. If you get on Mania, then yay, It's cool, it's cool to say I'm a part of something as big as WrestleMania. But I mean, the last couple of years I was disappointed with my spot. It's okay. You're just going to do a run in. You're just going to do this. You're just going to do that. Well, we need to save time for these big guys. They need 25 minutes. So I mean, my first WrestleMania was cool. That TLC match. Going back into it, it just seemed like my spot was just filler spot. Okay, well we want to give you a spot, so we'll give you this 30-second role here. Oh, you know what? I just assumed not be on it. Then give me a bullshit role. I'd like to do something that means something. Don't just throw me a bone. Fuck you. Give me my paycheck. Let me go home. I'd rather spend the weekend with my wife than to have a bullshit role.
What was the locker room reaction to Brock Lesnar leaving the WWE?
Well, that was those guys. That happened on SmackDown. I was on Raw when he left. You know what? It was one of those things. I think the more appropriate question was, what's everybody's reaction to the office throwing so much money into an unproven guy? There's no doubt Brock was a talented son of a bitch. I mean, look at the body and the physical aspect. I mean, he could work his balls off. But is anybody worth anything without paying their dues? Why does in his first year does he have to become the world champ? And they're so quick to throw the world strap on anybody they think could sell T-shirts, when for years it was groom them. Like, make him pay his dues, make him learn the craft, and then he can be of value. Now in the WWE, it's, we can sell some shirts. Give him the goddamn title. Make him the champ. We got to push him. And John Cena, I love him to death. Nicest guy in the damn world. He will come and sit down right next to me and go, I'm not ready to be world champ. Because he doesn't know the craft. It takes time. But the WWE has bypassed the learning the craft and what can we sell? What can we sell? Well, John Cena, he can rap. We're going to push him. It doesn't matter whether he can't work or not. It's what can we sell?
Whose idea was it to put you and Bubba back together after they had split Bubba and Devon up?
Good question. I don't know. I don't know. There's some office of people, that sits down every week and decides what to do and what not to do. And I came to work one day and they said, you and Bubba do this. And I went, okay. But I don't know.
Memories of your matches with Benoit and Guerrero.
That's really funny. At first I was honored. They originally put me and Bubba working with those guys, mostly because we weren't going to hurt him. Because Chris was just coming back from an injury, and he hadn't been working for a year, so it's like, let's put him in the ring with some guys that know what they're doing, are going to be able to carry him through and not hurt him. Looking back on it, I was disappointed in my own self because I was too unselfish, if that makes any sense. Like, I'm finally in there with Benoit and Guerrero, and all I wanted to do was sell. I didn't want to try and look like I was being one up or anything. So my whole attitude was sell, sell, sell. But on the other hand, you have to, as a wrestler, as a performer in there, you have to have some offense sometime. And I was just I'm in there with Eddie Guerrero. I can't do anything to him, So it wound up not being as exciting as I would have liked it because I wasn't on the offense as much as I would have preferred. Looking back on it, I would have done it completely differently than how I did it. But on the same hand, I was honored the fact that they put them with me because they knew that they could work a program and not get injured. So,
what are your memories of matches with William Regal?
Regal was fun. Regal was a lot of fun, especially because we did the European title over in Europe. That was one of the things when I won the title. It was over in England, and he was a good guy. I mean, he understood the mentality, the big guy, little guy, the heel, babyface psychology of it all, and he great business. He was a lot of fun, and I learned a lot from him. It was a good time.
Many people say Triple H holds people down and has too much power on Raw. What are your thoughts on him and his reputation?
I don't know. I haven't been on Raw for a while, so does he have too much power? I mean, it depends what decisions he's making. I mean, you can't argue someone. This is a scummy business. Pro wrestling is a scummy fucking business. Can you blame someone for fucking the boss's wife and marrying him and making as much money as possible? You know what I mean? It's like, okay, everybody knows what he's doing. Everybody knows he's trying to work the system. Can you blame him for winning? So, I mean, I always got along well with Hunter, but I know what he's doing. I know he's trying to push himself and, in lieu of the boss's daughter or whatever. I mean, so it's catch-22. I mean, I got along well with Hunter. I never had a problem with Hunter, but I know he's just trying to get himself over. But can you blame him? He fucked the boss's daughter and wound up on top. Yeah, I mean, goddamn, I'd give him a standing O. Shit.
Was it his idea to give you that match on Raw that you worked with Hunter?
What match?
On Raw that I think it was a while back, you and him had a one-on-one match.
I worked with Hunter?
Mm-hmm.
And what, he killed me?
Well, I recall, I don't think he really killed you. It was a decent match. Do you have any fond memories of it, or just one of those things that were just thrown together? Or
I can't even remember it. I mean, I'm serious. I'm sure I worked with Hunter. I mean, I know I've worked with Hunter in the past, but it's like, if we go out and do a TV match, or was it important? I mean, was there an angle behind it? Or
I think it was just like one match.
It was just a match, right? Yeah. So, I went out and worked with Hunter. He probably made me look pretty good, because Hunter is a hell of a worker. But no, I mean, that's just something. You show up to work, you're in the ring, you work with whoever you're supposed to work with. I can't even remember what it. I mean, couldn't have been that great.
Were you pressured to alter your physical appearance when you came into WWE, or?
No. It was funny. Here's one. I walked in. My first week was in Albany, so I came in, did my little thing with the Dudleys and all that. Okay, cool. Come back next week. I came back next week, and I got pulled aside by, it was by JR, actually. And JR said, Spike, our writers are having a hard time recognizing you. So could you wear a jacket and tie to TVs? And I'm like, excuse me? He goes, well, it's just that you're so small, the writers don't know that you're a wrestler, so if you wear a tie, they'll recognize you. Well, that was the WWE's little bullshit way of testing you. How much shit can you eat before you fire back? You know? So here, okay, we're giving you a job. You don't have any bargaining leverage. You know, like if I argued about my money, well, fine, you're fired. You know what I mean? Like I had no legs. Okay, so I walk in, you want a job, you have to wear a tie. Okay, I'll wear a tie. All right. So, I mean, you get fucked with all the time in that company. It's a bullshit company. I mean, and that was my first introduction. was to them fucking with me. Yeah, you have to wear a tie because no one can recognize you. Well, I'm sorry, you're a writer for wrestling. I've been in ECW for 5 years and you don't recognize me. Why do you have a job? You know, but I had to wear a tie for about a month or two.
Are you surprised it didn't work out for Raven in the World Wrestling Entertainment?
Was I surprised? No, I mean, you know, it's a very political company, and it's all how you deal with behind the scenes. And Raven, for all of his genius and all of that, can be a pain in the ass. You know, and when you're dealing with the company and with marketing and producing and all that, and you got one guy that's being a pain in the ass. No, I mean, him getting fired or whatever, it's not any different from anybody else. You know, they fired a lot more talented guys.
Thoughts on some of the writers in WWE? Brian Gerwitz?
Well, you know, it's hard for me to sit here and talk about them individually because I'm not there for the writings. I really don't have a lot of problems with the writers. The writers actually have very good ideas. The problem with the way the company is run is it all comes down to whose idea is it. So you've got the writers that come up with very good ideas, but then the agents want to take credit for it, and then it's a battle between whose ideas, the agents or the writers, and then you throw the wrestlers in the mix, and then you got a three-way battle between the agents, the wrestlers, and then the writers. The writers are actually very, very good, but they're not given the opportunity to shine. You know, I mean. If anybody comes up with a good idea, then somebody else takes credit for it. You know, so I got no knock with the writers. You know, it's not their fault they don't know anything about wrestling. I mean, someone hired them. You know, so they actually do a very good job. But it's just like the wrestlers, their balls are cut off before they get a chance to show what they got.
What are your thoughts on Stephanie McMahon?
I always got along well with Steph. You know, again, it's one of those things. I'm not there for the decisions that are made. I can tell you, I always got along great with her. We always had a good rapport. But what she does behind the scenes, in the writers' meetings, I'm not there for. I don't know. You know, it's hard when you come up with an idea and you present it to a writer, and they go, "Oh yeah, we love this idea. We're going to pitch the idea," and then it goes to the meeting, whatever the meeting is, you know, because the wrestlers aren't there for it, and then they come back and they shoot down your idea, and you don't know why. So, I mean, I don't know. I'm not there. I don't know how good Stephanie is. As far as I know, she's useless because I've never heard her come up with an original idea. I've never heard anything that she's implemented, but I'm not there for the decision making. So, I mean, it's a hard question to ask.
In July 2001, you broke your fibula. What kind of pressures did you feel to come back early or even wrestle through it?
Well, of course I wanted to wrestle through it. I broke my fibula again, and they fired me. So, I mean, there's obviously always that pressure. If you're not there, if you're hurt, that you're going to lose your job. I mean, they fired Tess with a broken neck. So it's one of those things where if you have the misfortune of suffering an injury, then yeah, you always feel like your job is on the line, which is horrible. I mean, how can you run a company? These guys fucking put their lives on the line every day. And if you have a broken leg, you have to worry about losing your job, you know? But I mean, I went through it twice.
Did you find the road agents to be helpful or a hindrance?
Depended on the agent. Some of the agents are very good. Some of them are just there trying to maintain their job, just like the rest of them. A lot of the agents are just former wrestlers. They can't wrestle anymore. The only thing they know is wrestling, so they get a job as an agent. They just want to keep their job. So their job is to appease Vince. They don't. The agents have it as they have to juggle through as much shit as the wrestlers do. And what's worse is that if they lose their job, they can't go work. I mean, I can go wrestle somewhere for some indies. If you're 50, 55, and that's all you've known, and you lose your job, you're fucked. So it winds up to catch-22. The agents wind up being the biggest problem in the office, in the company, because they're just trying to protect themselves individually, and they lose aspect of the total picture.
Michael Hayes, he's one of the agents?
Yep.
Okay. How is he as far as his experience in the 80s and stuff with that kind of...
My only experience, I mean, I always got along great with Michael. Good guy, old school dude, loves the business. Anybody that's passionate about the business, is in with me. The only time I really got to work with him was with the TLC matches when I first came in. That WrestleMania 17 with the Hardys and Dudleys and Edge and Christian, and he was one of the he was the main agent behind those matches, and he was great to work with. I mean, listen to ideas, receptive to ideas, great ideas. I mean, he'd come up with good finishes, with good spots. I learned a lot from Michael. He was a good guy.
Were you on the Flight from Hell? If so, what are your thoughts on that?
I can't remember much of it. I mean, it was a flight from hell. We were all fucked up. Everybody was drunk. Everybody was fucked up. I mean, what do you want to know? I mean, it was 5 years ago, and yeah, you had 50, 60 pro wrestlers drunk on a plane.
So it wasn't exaggerated as far as the stories of...
Well, I don't know what stories, I mean, a lot of shit happened. There was a bunch of fucked up guys on the plane, but that was it. I mean, nobody deserved to get arrested. I mean, we were coming back from a week in Europe, and everybody was tired and freaked. We had 12 hours to kill on the plane, and we had free wine and beer, and everyone got drunk and fucked up and had a good time. If some of the guys got a little rowdy, yes, it happened. But I mean, so what?
What was it like for you to be a WWE Tag Team Champion?
Disappointing. It was actually the most disappointing time I've ever had. I kind of thought like, oh wow, they're gonna put the straps on me and Taz. I thought it was like, I kind of thought it was the turning point where I was gonna be like a big time player. But Taz was still doing commentary on SmackDown, and he couldn't travel on house shows. So I was off house shows, which meant I was only working 1 day a week. So I went from working 4 days a week, win the tag team championships, I'm working 1 day a week. I wound up losing money by becoming tag team champ, which is kind of stiff. Excuse me, I need a water. Thank you. No, that's fine. And I went to JR because JR was head of talent at the time, and went, JR, what the fuck? I'm tag team champions and now I'm losing money? And he was like, well, your partner can't travel because he has to stay in the office and do commentary. And it was almost like a big fuck you. It was like, okay, we're going to give you the titles, but we're not going to let you run with them. It's just, it was a token thing. So it actually wound up being probably one of the biggest disappointments I've ever felt.
Okay. Thoughts on working with Bubba and Devon now in the WWE?
I love working with Bubba and Devon. I mean, when you're in there with guys you know so well, I mean, you don't talk about your match, you don't think about it, you just go out and beat the shit out of each other. And we know each other. We've beaten the shit out of each other for so long that we know exactly. I mean, he knows what I'm going to do. I know what he's going to do. It's fun. When you're at that level, and you can take any of the ECW guys, RVD or Guido or, Jerry Lynn or anybody of these guys I've worked with for years, and you just go out and you create. You know, when you don't have to have your match scripted, when you just go out and work, that's the beauty of it. And guys like Bubba and Devon, I could go out, I could not talk to them for the rest of my life and could work with them every night and have a great match. And that's cool. That's the beauty of the business.
Do you think they ever rubbed anyone the wrong way in the WWE?
Sure. But I mean, the honesty sucks. You know, you're saying rub someone the wrong way. The biggest problem with the Dudleys is we're incredibly honest. We'll tell you you're fucked up if you're fucked up. And Bubba and Devon won't sit still while someone fucks with their angle or fucks with their character or fucks with their gimmick. They'll come out, you know, we'll all come out and say, hey, this is wrong. This is the way we need to go. So if Bubba and Devon rub someone wrong with their honesty, yeah, it probably happened. But screw them. Whoever got rubbed the wrong way is a fucking cunt. You know, so.
Your thoughts on John Cena?
Love John Cena. John Cena is with unbelievable talent, unbelievable guy, trying to be a sponge. One of these guys is just trying to learn and trying to suck up and be the champion that the company wants him to be and the boys want him to be. If anybody went to John Cena and said, John, are you ready to be world champ? He would say no. He would flat out say no because he's a class act and he knows that he's not at that level yet. But they're forcing it on him, so he's going to take it. I mean, you're not going to say no to the world championship belt. This kid has got a world of potential, unbelievable amounts of potential in every aspect, from character to bumping to selling to, you know, he's got it all down, but he needs a few years of grooming. You know, I mean, I certainly think that the world title and all that was thrust on him a little bit early, but he'll adapt. He'll be a player. You know, he'll be around for a long time.
Thoughts on the newsletters and the internet?
I don't have any. You know, I mean, the internet is about internet fans talking about internet stuff, and most of the time it's, you know, third, fourth, fifth-hand information. I mean, I like to read reviews. I like to see like a fan's review of a house show and see whether they thought it was a good show. But the rest of it is you know, it's second, third hand, fourth hand information. I worked there for 5 years and I don't know anything that's going on because the meetings are so private and so secret. So how are these internet reports? You know, I mean, they don't know anything. You know, I mean, so it's great for the fans. If fans want to go and talk and stir up shit and all that, it's fine. But it's not an accurate account of what's going on in the world of wrestling by any means. You know, I take everything with a grain of salt.
Were you pressured to alter your physical appearance?
No. In fact, that was in '92 when I first started breaking in. That was the one thing I sat down and said, I'm never going to get on steroids. I'm never going to get on juice. My gimmick, my shtick is that I weigh 140 pounds. I'm in there with the world of giants. So, I mean, even if I were to be gassed to the gill at best, I might look like Eddie Guerrero or Chris Benoit. You know what I mean? 40, 50 pounds on my body, you know. But there's a gazillion guys that look like it. I always thought my credibility came by being unique and by being average. You know, there's no average guys out there, you know, and that's my shtick. That's my gimmick. So, no, anybody tried to put, you know, no, I never got pressured to do anything.
What do you think of steroids in wrestling?
Hey, whatever. You know, if it works for the individual, I don't give a shit. You know, if that's what you think you need to do to make money, go ahead. You know, I could care less. You know, it's been around, it's been there, it's a part of it. But it doesn't affect, you know, the way the boys look at the business. Not one way. I mean, somebody's on the gas and they get a job and they get hired and they start making money. It requires talent in the ring to sustain that, and gas ain't going to help it. So, I mean, you can look all the part. If you can't perform, you're not going to be there long. So, whatever.
What did you do to get yourself in good shape or in that kind of shape? That's how it's read.
With me, I mean, well, I'm a little bit of a freak, you know. I mean, I'm small. I'm incredibly small. I'm 130 pounds. I only worried about cardio, and I've never blown up in the ring. You know, like I've never been in a situation where I'm sucking for air. And aside from that, I just want to be healthy. You know, I've never tried to bulk up. I've never tried to put on 20, 30 pounds. I just want to be in shape and be able to be fit enough to wrestle whatever the promoter's asking me to wrestle. And I've never had a lack for that. So, you know.
Your thoughts on your series with Jamie Noble?
Too short. I mean, there was no time, you know? I mean, it was just go, okay, work a match, and then that's it. You know, there was never any time. There was never any angles put in. There was never any serious thought to, you know, long-term program. It was just go work a 4-minute match with them and then walk out. You know, Jamie, all those cruiserweights in the WWE, Jamie, Chavo, and Kidman, these guys are fucking awesome. And given the opportunity to lay down an actual angle and work a program, it never happened. It never happened with any of the cruiserweights. And Jamie, I would have loved to work with.
That brings us right into the next question, which is: do you think the cruiserweight division will ever be successful?
Not
in
if they don't
WWE?
want it to be. No, I mean, it all depends on whether they want it to be or not. I mean, obviously they don't. I mean, the cruiserweight champion right now is it's Guido, right? It's Little Nunes. And has he been on SmackDown with the cruiserweight title?
I don't think so.
I think vaguely it's like here and there.
So you can't even remember, right?
Yeah.
So he's been the champ for 2 months, hasn't been on the mainstay show. So obviously the cruiserweight title doesn't mean anything.
Is there a reason, in your opinion, why they bother keeping the belt if they decide to do nothing?
I don't know why. I would just assume they get rid of it. You know, I don't understand why they keep it. I have no idea why they keep it. I'd rather them just get rid of it than to do the bullshit attitude they do with it. You know, it's insulting. You know, Nunes is a cruiserweight champion and he gets squashed out by Batista in 30 seconds. Well, just get rid of the fucking title then. You know, and don't insult the guys because the guys bust their ass. They work hard trying to get it over.
Are you aware that the cruiserweights were told to tone down their style? And your thoughts on that?
All right. Now, first set up this question. Where are you getting this from?
This is stuff everybody gets hears through.
Okay,
again.
so this is hearsay.
Yes.
Question.
Well,
That the
hearsay
office
because-
came
yes.
to the wrestlers and said, tone down the cruiserweight style.
I guess they're saying it maybe not as you guys. We'll give you an example. Like in TNA, a lot of the guys, the cruiserweight more guys, they go full throttle. They give them the time. Where in the WWE, it's 5 minutes and don't do anything to overshadow the next match. And
Okay, so again, I want to go back to the question. What was said to the cruiserweights?
as far as that, it would be. I guess it is hearsay, but.
Basically, it was like Vince McMahon came to him and said, I want y'all to stop all the high flying and keep it on the ground. Just to report. I mean,
Okay, so you see, now this is where God bless you, I love you, I'm doing a shoot interview, this is all good. Vince never came and said, cruiserweights don't do high-flying stuff. Vince came and said, hey, I'm a little concerned about that shooting star press and that 450 because a lot of guys have been getting fucked up. Now, whatever has been transpired, tone it down, all they were looking for was safety. I don't think it was a knock on the cruiserweights. I don't think they're trying to bury I think they're trying to bury the cruiserweights, but not in this case. They're trying to bury the cruiserweights by keeping them off TV. I mean, that's a done deal. That's a given. The WWE is not interested in the cruiserweight wrestlers. They don't make money off the cruiserweight wrestlers. They only make money off the big guys. So it was a little novelty item. It's on the sideline now. It's bullshit. But I don't think that for 1 second Vince ever came to the guys and said, hey, tone down your style, don't work hard because you're going to outshadow it. I don't buy that bullshit. I think he might have said something like, hey, that 450 is a little scary, be careful with it. But I don't think he ever said, don't come off the top rope, don't do high-flying moves. And I think that's how internet shit gets blown out of proportion.
When you have a match, when you were working, all the cruiserweights were working, is it mainly because you can't have these blockbuster matches. They're all very good matches, but the blockbuster matches, because of the time limits they're giving you, and you have to kind of just fit everything in, and it kind of becomes just a good short match.
Well, it comes down, they give you, 4 or 5 minutes. Me personally, when I was champ, I wouldn't build any match, like a high, crazy match, with 4 minutes time. I would never do something super crazy. I would never try to build up the physicality to some crazy level, because 4 minutes isn't enough time to do anything. So what's the point of killing yourself and you only have 30 seconds to sell it and then you got to go home? They pull the rug out from under you before you even go out there. So if they tell you 4 minutes, yeah, it's toned down. I would never try to do any of the physicality that, the ECW style, even the TNA style physicality with 3.5 minutes to tell a story. Because to me, that's retarded. I love wrestling. I love the high flying. I love the athleticism, but I want to tell a story and be able to sell something. So right from the very second they tell you, hey, Spike, it's going to be you and Funaki on Velocity, and you got 4.5 minutes. Well, right there, they've cut the balls off from you. And I'm not even going to try to do anything crazy because you only have 4 minutes. And there's not enough time to sell anything, period. So, before I even started figuring out the match, I knew that they didn't give a shit about the cruiserweights. They just wanted their 4-minute filler match. Get in, get out. So, I don't even know what your question was, but I think they fucked us from the very beginning to the end.
Thoughts on the Four Corners Survivor Series match?
Who was in it?
I think he was a champion at the time, and you defended against
Was it a cruiserweight thing?
Yeah, cruiserweight thing.
Another 4-minute match.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
What the hell? It was just another cruiserweight match.
Yeah.
We had a little program down with all of the cruiserweights, a little formula for doing all of these matches. But when was that? Was that a pay-per-view?
It was Survivor Series.
Survivor Series.
And I was in it?
I think he had just lost the belt. Oh gosh, he wasn't.
See, I don't think I was even in that one, because I don't remember doing a 4-corner pay-per-view match. I worked a match with Nunzio, and I worked a match with Funaki. But in terms of cruiserweight pay-per-views, I never did a 4-corner.
Okay.
I don't think.
Thoughts on Rey Mysterio?
Ray's awesome. Ray's unbelievable. He's in terms of cruiserweight, has brought everybody up to another level. He's an awesome fucking talent, but you got to use him accordingly. If he's going to be the cruiserweight guy, and I come in and beat him, well, then the emphasis should be on the guy that beats him, not back to the guy that lost. And that's the problem with the company is, Ray can sell T-shirts. So it's not a knock on him. God bless him. He's making money and all that. But the company revolves around the people they think they can sell, and it has nothing. They're just fucking their product. They're fucking their own product.
Thoughts on Chavo Guerrero?
Chavo's awesome too. Loved working with Chavo. Chavo was the one guy that really, really, really took me under his wing as a good guy. When I moved over to the cruiserweights with SmackDown, it was like, hey, brother, you fit in. You got psychology down. You got this. You got that. Great worker and just a good guy. A very good guy. Good friend.
How much of being successful in the WWE is about politics?
Apparently everything, since I don't have a job. I didn't play the politics and I lost. So I think it comes down to everything. Everybody there blew smoke up my ass the whole time and told me how great I was and how long I was going to be there. But I refused to get into the politics games. I didn't give a shit whether I was winning or losing. I never fought for my spot. Apparently, if you don't fight for your spot, you're gone. So, politics is everything.
Thoughts on the entire Edge Lita Matt Hardy situation?
Who cares? I'll be honest. They let me go in July, and I kind of watch Raw here and there. If it's on, I'll watch it. If that's their biggest angle they've come up with, well, I missed it because I wasn't on the internet.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm sorry, Matt and Edge haven't sold any tickets for them wrestling against each other. So who cares? To me, it was all a worthless plot. You know, like they were trying something, but the internet is a very small audience compared to the total wrestling audience. So if that's their clever thing, well, sorry, wasn't that interesting.
Thoughts on WrestleMania this past year and the Battle Royal? Because that was another Cruiserweight Battle Royal?
Did I work that? No, it was Raw SmackDown Battle Royal. It was like a pre-thing. Who cares? It was bullshit.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that's okay.
The whole thing was utter bullshit. You know, they preached for a year. The guys are on the house shows. You know, we work 4 or 5 days a week. Guys are busting their ass and getting minimal salary, and you get that every couple of weeks. They give you the rah-rah speech in the locker room of, "Oh, guys, this is all for WrestleMania, and you're working this hard and on the road, and you're traveling hard, all for WrestleMania for that big build-up." So you finally get to WrestleMania, and all of the guys that have been on the road for the past year, you know, missing their family stuff and missing the holidays and the birthdays and all that shit. All those fucking guys, the Spikes and the Stevie Richards and the you know, the Nunzios, these are the guys that have supported the company, the guys that are the backbone of the company. And then you finally get to WrestleMania. Well, we got Goldberg versus Brock, and we got Rock versus Hulk Hogan, and we've got all of these guys that are only going to be here for this one show, and they're all going to make 6-7 figures for that one fucking payoff, and then they're going to leave, and then the rest of you fucking jobbers, well, you're just right back to supporting the company, but you're not getting any payoff for it. So it was a big fucking kick in the balls, the past couple WrestleManias, when you get all that I'm the guy that's making WrestleMania work. I mean, that was the rah-rah speech you hear every time. You're the guy. You're on the house shows. You're the ones that's working hard, working in front of 3,000 people instead of 10,000 people. You're the guy that makes WWE survive. And then when it finally gets time to the fucking WrestleMania, sorry, we don't have a spot for you. You can be in the background during the interview. That'll be your payoff. So, I mean, it's a big fuck you. I mean, they're full of shit. They don't take care of the people that take care of them.
Okay. For 6 or so years, you were on the road constantly. What is
10.
life? 10?
10 years.
Okay. What has life been like for you with that kind of lifestyle?
It's, you know, it's catch-22, you know? I mean, I'm married, I'm home, you know. I don't get much time with my wife. I have forsaken trying to have any sort of family, wife, kids. I mean, the wife I've got, but the kids I refuse to have because of the instability, because you have no job security. You know, you're one injury out from being, you know, missing out your paydays. There's no security as being a pro wrestler. But you know that going into it, you know, like I knew when I signed up for it that I had to give up everything personal in my life to do it. So, I mean, it's a sacrifice that will willingly make, but it's not easy. You know, I have no family life. You know, I refuse to have kids. I wouldn't want to be a daddy and be gone 80% of the time. So I just sacrifice it. I'm a pro wrestler. I'm on the road. That's it.
Thoughts on Paul London?
Paul's a good kid. You know, I mean, unbelievable athleticism, you know, but again, it comes down to it's a different breed of wrestling. There's old school versus new school, and there's a psychology gap between. It's weird, like the fans that from like 1990 and before is one fan, and then like the 1990s and after are a different fan, and that gap is huge. You know, the psychology and all that. Paul's a great kid. You know, and as long as he's got some guidance, one of the greatest workers in the world.
Thoughts on matches with Kidman?
Kidman, I didn't have too many singles. I had a lot of like 3 and 4 ways with Kidman. I love working with Kidman. Kidman comes kind of out of the same mold as I do. He was around at the same time as, you know, in the early 90s as the young guys, the little guys trying to make it in the big man's world. He's got the same psychology as I do. You know, like he understands the business. He understands what his role is. So kid, awesome talent, you know.
Thoughts on the WWE's One Night Stand pay-per-view?
Hated it. Absolutely fucking hated it. I didn't even want any part of it. In fact, I was disappointed I even showed my face on it. It's you can't put ECW, but owned by WWE. To me, that's the biggest fucking slap in the face. It was the biggest fuck you. It was the biggest piece of shit. It was Vince's way of making money off of something pure. And I didn't want anything to do with it. I didn't want any part of it. The only reason I was there was, it was my job. I had to be there. But I didn't want to be there. I didn't want to be any part of it. I didn't even want to be. I hated it. Fucking hated it.
Thoughts on Rob Van Dam's speech?
Oh, Rob was shooting from the hip. Rob's a straight shooter. Sorry. Rob is, it was a good promo, and he came out and he called it like it is, and Rob doesn't take shit from anybody, and that was finally his opportunity to come out and go, hey, I can speak, and everything he said was right on. What did he say? Like, remember, I can say something more than dude or man. Yeah, I mean,
That's hilarious.
Rob, you know what? When we first came in, when ECW first came in, and Rob came down, and I forgot who he was working, it might have been like Hunter, and the entire goddamn arena was going RVD, RVD, RVD. And there's Kevin Dunn. You guys know who Kevin Dunn is, right?
Yes.
He's the TV producer that's in charge of our wrestling, right? Kevin Dunn goes, well, there's the ECW fans, they're very loud, but there's not many of them. Now, you had 15,000 people screaming RVD, RVD, RVD. But because he wasn't a WWE product, there's Kevin Dunn going, oh, he's not one of us. Now, they're loud, but there's not many of them. Forget about him. Are you fucking kidding me? Rob Van Dam was like, when that first invasion, the ECW first came into WWE, he was the most over son of a bitch you'll ever want to see. And they said, fuck him.
It's amazing how with Rob Van Dam that he was over at, even though the promotion was trying
to bury him.
And it was pure that the WWE just knew he was over, knew he probably could sell merchandise, but they just, because he wasn't theirs.
Welcome to New York.
Okay. Thoughts of the WWE talent that was on the One Night Stand pay-per-view?
What do you mean WWE talent? They were all WWE talent.
Well, I mean, more. It wasn't authentic, total ECW talent where you had guys like guys who worked ECW but were not really known as ECW guys, like Benoit, Mysterio, even though they worked many matches.
Sure. Me personally, the whole when they first told me it was an ECW pay-per-view, it was like a kick in the gut. I didn't like the idea. I didn't appreciate the idea. Then when I saw the lineup and saw that, like, it was Ray and Eddie. Ray and Eddie were giving like 10, 15 minutes. And as you said, they were a very minimal part of ECW. Then it became very clear what it was. It was the WWE's way of selling themselves. So, okay, we're going to do this ECW thing where we're going to stick as many of our guys in the program as possible.
Like Chris Jericho, too.
Yeah. Sure. And I mean, and those guys, it's not a knock on those guys because they're awesome talents, but you're right. They were only there for a short amount of time. It was like they're not pure ECW, So, I mean, to me, the whole thing was a kick in the balls from the beginning, and just something like that was even more so, Because, I mean, I remember I wasn't offered a spot, a role, a job, and anything in the ECW pay-per-view until about a week before it happened. And there I am with it, going, fuck, I think I did something for this company. Like I was there in ECW for about 5 years, and I'm pretty sure I hurt for them. And I think I've deserved a spot somewhere in there. So then a week before the pay-per-view, oh yeah, you can bring out the lighter fluid for Bubba and Devon and then go on your way. And I went, all right, fuck you. You know, that's it. And that was pretty much. And then I got fired the next week. So I mean, it wasn't an ECW pay-per-view. No matter how good it was, no matter how much fun it was, no matter how much energy it came through, it wasn't pure.
Do you wish you could have worked a Homecoming? I wouldn't say pay-per-view, but that Friday night with Shane Douglas.
You know what? Had I been fired at that point, yeah, absolutely. I mean, but at the time I was still with the WWE, so like working in indie wasn't an option. But had I been gone from them, and yeah, you have a choice of working the ECW with WWE or Shane's show and the hardcore. Oh, absolutely, the hardcore Homecoming. Absolutely.
Were you disappointed when they completely dropped the angle the next night, where they didn't follow up on anything with ECW? Like it never existed.
You know what? At that point, I was already in a pretty bummed out stage. The last 6 months of my tenure at WWE was horribly depressing. So after the ECW pay-per-view, when they decided to fuck with it, and I knew what they were doing, you know, they were just going to blow it off and all that. I could care less at that point. You know, like they had already gone past the point where I gave a shit what they did with it. So I think it was about a week later when I got fired anyway. So, I mean, I give a shit what they do. It had already been tainted at that point. It wasn't ECW anymore than, you know.
This is just a question from slightly before. It says, is there anyone that was not on One Night Stand that you thought should have been?
I don't give a shit because I didn't look at it. No. I could care less what the Matt card was. I thought the whole card was ridiculous. So.
Thoughts on the JBL Meanie incident?
You know what? That's something I don't know. I mean, I don't know what the past heat is between them. If those guys really like have heat with each other, and as far as what happened, I don't know who threw the first punch. I mean, like I saw Meanie was a bloody mess when he came after her, and I mean, I can't imagine Meanie going after Bradshaw, but there's some sort of story there between those two guys that I honestly don't know about. And for Bradshaw to take it out in the ring, there must be something there because I know John, he's a pretty good guy, and I know Meanie, and he's a pretty good guy. For those two guys to like break down and fight in the ring, it's a personal issue between those two, and it's settled between those two. You know what I mean? I don't give a shit. If a fat guy and a redneck want to beat each other up, great. Who cares?
Thoughts on JBL when you have worked matches with him?
Working with him?
Yes.
Great. I mean, JBL what he has become in the past couple of years is awesome. Is absolutely awesome. I mean, he'd always been kind of the jobber. He was never got a giant push. He was always kind of the middle guy. And then all of a sudden he gets this gimmick where he gets to talk and do his promos, and he gets more heat than anybody I've ever seen. And it's a shame that WWE didn't let him run with the title and let him actually get the heat that he deserved. But I think he was a great champ. He took SmackDown and brought it to a different level. Like that company was the shits, and he himself, with his gimmick, single-handedly brought it up in the past year. And I will give him credit for that. He's fucking over. Way over. Because the heat he gets is natural heat. And not many people get the heat that he generates.
Were you surprised that Meanie got a job out of the incident with Bradshaw?
To prevent a lawsuit? No, they fired him pretty quickly after, didn't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was bullshit. We'll hire you so you can't sue us, and then we'll fire you a week later. Yeah, that's typical WWE. Bullshit.
Were you worried what would happen if the table didn't catch fire at One Night Stand? We're going back to that for a second.
No, because I wasn't involved with it. We've done flaming tables. It's no big deal. No, I mean, we're confident in our abilities. That wasn't even a concern. Didn't even think about it.
Any good road stories from your time in the WWE?
I got a lot of road stories, but
We covered that earlier.
yeah, but
Oh, okay.
but you need to be sitting next to me in a bar without a camera to hear those.
Okay. Were you surprised when you were told you were dropping the belt to Funaki?
I
At this
knew
time,
I
he
was-
was more of an announcer. They put him over too.
Yeah, you know what? At that point, I knew they were fucking with us. You know, like I knew that the cruiserweight title meant nothing. When I got it, when I beat Ray for the title, we had a lot of heat. We had a lot of good heat. It was a nice angle. And then the following week, me as the cruiserweight champ did like a 3-minute match on Velocity with Funaki. Meanwhile, Ray, the guy that lost the title, had like a 15-minute match on SmackDown. So obviously, they didn't care about the title. They were going with the individual, and Ray was the power guy. So it didn't matter that Ray just lost. They were going to push him. So I knew a week after I had the title, they weren't going to do anything with the fucking title. So no matter what happened at that point on, was no surprise. Oh yeah, drop it to Funaki? Yeah, okay, fine, no problem. It made no sense, but that was what they wanted.
Thoughts on Steve Austin?
He's over. Popular guy. I mean, good guy. Yeah, I've actually learned a lot from him. He's one of the guys I actually got, I wouldn't say tight with, but he's one of the guys I could talk to and discuss the business with. And true to the business, loyal to the business, good for the business, and a good guy.
Thoughts on The Rock?
Same. I had some good times, except that motherfucker owes me for a dinner. He was out of cash. I had to pay for his dinner. He said, "Oh, I'll pay it back tomorrow." Motherfucker left me with a $45 steak bill. God damn. That's why I tell everybody you're a fag, Rock.
How were you told when you were being released?
As bullshit as possible. Sorry, your contract. Actually, I wasn't released. My contract wasn't renewed.
Who called you up with that?
That was Johnny Ace. Johnny, Spike, contract's not going to be renewed. Okay. What about the 2-year extension you promised me a month ago? No. 2-year extension you promised me a month ago is not going to happen? No. What about the job you promised me training guys when I was done in wrestling in the ring? No. Okay, that's not going to happen either? No. Okay, what about the job editing for TV when you have these idiots that are TV editors that don't know anything about wrestling? I was supposed to go behind the scenes and do some editing. What about the job editing for TV? No. Okay, so for the past 2 years, you've been promising me a job behind the scenes after my wrestling career. Whatever. All of that shit, everything you've been talking about me? No. All right, so you're a fucking liar. Oh no, Spike, it's not like that. Just things change. Well, you promised me a 2-year extension. Yeah, I can't do that. So you're a fucking liar. No, Spike, it's not like that. What are you going to do? You know, they promised me the world. I was blindsided. I did not see it coming.
Yeah, I was going to say, how surprised were you?
I was flabbergasted, absolutely shocked. I knew they weren't doing anything with my character, you know, but there was always that role as a guy to get somebody else over. And I had just had this conversation with Johnny not a month or two before they fired me. Johnny, my contract's coming to an end. What's going on? Oh, Spike, don't worry about it. You're going to be here for a long time. We love you. You got a future here. You're going to be here forever. In fact, if it makes you feel better, I'll give you a 2-year contract extension right now. And I went, okay. I wasn't trying to negotiate for more money, more than a 2-year extension. I went, okay, cool. He goes, okay, well, get on it. I'll send it out. I'll put it in the paper tomorrow. You know, I'll do the paperwork. Well, next day, nothing happened. Next week, nothing happened. He called in a couple weeks. No call back. Then finally, I get the call. Oh, yeah, you're fired. What about extension? No, sorry. So, yeah, I was flabbergasted and fucked and absolutely shocked that they let me go after all of the promises of my shit. Yeah, you got all this on tape? You got it? Yeah, all right. Yeah, I was flabbergasted.
All right. Are you upset that you were released while other less talented guys were still employed?
I don't care about anybody else's status. I don't look at it like that. I was upset that I was released in those circumstances. I mean, if they had just come and said, hey, you're done, we don't have anything left for you, that's one thing. But I had been promised a lot of shit. And I had made friends with a lot of people. And apparently nobody went to bat for me. apparently everything that I was promised was bullshit. I was hurt. Yeah, I was fucking shocked and shattered and crushed and hurt and all that bullshit. But I sound like a pussy, but it fucking hurt.
Were you surprised from anyone else's release with the group that was released during that time?
No, I mean, I think after Bubba, Devon, and me, everybody else there wasn't established characters. What, could have been considered as, I hate to use the term, but dead weight. There were guys that, there's always guys coming and going, but there are very few established characters. And I think Bubba, Devon, and myself were the three established characters that were let go. Like, why? Why, when you're dying, when this company is dying for characters, why would you get rid of three characters that you have? Now, those guys were getting paid big money. I can understand it. Me, I was a different story. I think I just got fucked.
Did you have any proposed gimmicks or angles that the WWE turned down?
I will say I pitched a gazillion ideas over the years. Whenever something happened, I would come up with an idea. I would pitch it. They don't care about that. They already have it set in their head who they're going to push and who they don't. And it comes down to who's going to sell the most T-shirts. Who can we sell DVDs with? Who can we sell T-shirts with? And if you're not on the list, it doesn't matter how good your gimmick or your character is. They're not going to push it. When they put me and Molly together, we were over. I mean, we were as over as we've ever been.
They cut the legs off in that
been.
big too.
And they chopped it off before it even had an opportunity. And why? I don't know. And the only reason I can come up with is we weren't on their list of people they wanted to push. Well, when they turned me heel, I got over as well as anybody's got over. I had as much heat going out there on SmackDown house shows as a heel as anybody on that roster. But the second they took Ray away from it, chop the legs right out and fuck you, whatever. You're dropping Funaki, So I was constantly getting the legs cut out from me.
Favorite matches in WWE?
Ones you wouldn't even see. House shows, little ones. Shit you wouldn't even understand. Actually, one that was awesome was me and Val Venus. It wound up, it was a fluke thing where I wasn't supposed to wrestle him, but last minute, the show starts at 7:30. At 7:30, change of plans. Oh my God, we got to change the card up. Val and Spike, you guys go work. So we had to go down there without talking, and we just had to go out and create. And we had a fucking great match. And that's the beauty of wrestling, when you don't have to have it scripted and choreographed and all that. So I mean, my favorite matches aren't anything you would see on DVD. It's the obscure shit,
Least favorite guys to work with and why?
Just green guys. I don't want to name anybody individually because everybody's learning. Everybody's there with the right attitude. But when they put you out there in an important angle with inexperienced green guys, they're going to hurt you. Like working with the French kids when they fucked me up. The table thing.
Okay.
With Renee and Sly. I mean, they're putting me out there. We practiced that. I hate to say it, we're on DVD. Yeah, we practiced the fucking spot, and they still fucked it up. And their fuck up is going to cost me physical pain for the rest of my life. So, I mean, yeah, I get offended when I'm in there with these guys that don't know what they're doing, and their fuck ups winds up costing me pain.
Sure.
So, I mean, I would say that I'd put that one on my top of my list because I'm not going to be able to feel my hands for the rest of my life because two Greenpeace didn't know how to throw a 140-pound guy over the ropes.
Any regrets in your career?
Taking the job. Going to WWE in the first place. I would have preferred to pull the Spanky or AJ Styles and said, fuck you, I'd rather work the indie and be true to myself.
Does it bother you when you see... Oh, we got that one. What is your future?
I don't know. I really don't. I have no idea. I'm going to try and make it in the wrestling business. If I can, I will. If I can, I'll go get a day job.
Do you think TNA
I'd love to hope. I mean, I can't really even talk with them until my 90 days is run down. So, I mean, I can't even discuss anything with them until October 5th. I would love to go to TNA. I mean, I'd love to have a job in the business, you know. And they look like a very promising company with the right attitude, a good locker room. So, yeah, I would love to go there.
Have you had contact with them as far as initial?
I've had some talks with people, but I mean, realistically, I can't discuss anything during my 90 days. So I don't know until October 5th. I can't really discuss anything.
When did you find out that WWE would prevent you from using your name?
The same as everybody else. No one ever called me. I mean, it was all internet bullshit. As far as I know, no one's ever contacted me about anything, you know. So I don't know. I mean, I could probably go out as Spike and see what happens.
Yeah.
But no one's contacted me. I got one letter like the day after they released me saying, "Don't, you know, you've got your contract and you can't do this and do that." But aside from that, I haven't heard anything.
Have you talked to Paul Heyman since this went
Many
down?
times. Yeah, Paul's a good friend of mine. I mean, I don't know what you want me to say.
I mean, as far as after your release, I mean, was there any?
Yeah, I talk to Paul all the time. I mean, as a friend, I mean, he's. I owe him my career. I owe him a lot, and he's one of the one guys that's always been supportive of me and always said, "Don't sweat it. You're gonna be all right."
I have a question for you, Spike. Don't you think it's kind of ironic, if you want to say that Paul Lee gets sent to OVW, and all of a sudden they go from not being hot to being hot, and the guy can't they won't give him a job in there.
Of course, it's ironic. Well, I mean, everybody knows if you give Paulie the book that the place would take off, but they can't do that because then it would be giving credit to someone other than them. You know, I mean, of course, Paulie's a genius. Of course, Paulie can take any company. If you give him the book full without any interruption, he can turn this place around in a heartbeat. So, no, I mean, yeah, ironic, I guess, but not surprising. Yeah, go ahead. We got Goldie. He's got to go.
Yeah, we got about 10 more questions.
Do what you're going to do.
We shot. Keep going?
Yeah, we got 10 minutes.
Well, we're going to change dates? Okay. Do you have any desire to get out and work the indies?
I want to get out and do what I love to do. I mean, I can't say I'm psyched to go out and work the indies because then you're living day to day, paycheck to paycheck, one stop at a time. So, I mean, that's scary. But on the other hand, to go out and actually do what I love to do and actually practice the craft the way I want to do it, I'm excited about that. It'll be fun. You know, I'm psyched to go out and work the indies. I'm scared about the lifestyle, you know, having to live paycheck to paycheck. But yeah, I'm excited to go do it.
How much of a toll has all the punishment that you have absorbed taken on you?
Unbelievable. I mean, it's at the point where I mean, physically, I haven't bumped in 3 months. So I'm starting to just kind of feel okay again. But, you know, I could go out and work the next couple of weeks and call it quits. You know, I mean, it's brutal. I mean, the neck injuries and the nerve and all that, it's horrifying. And I really, physically, I don't know how long I can stay in the business. I don't know how much more I have, how much gas I've got left in my tank. So it's terrifying, you know, one bump away from a major injury and that's it.
If the WWF started ECW back up, could it work?
I mean, I'm sure it could work. I mean, I'm sure they could make it work. I wouldn't want any part of it, but I'm sure it could be successful. You know, they can make anything successful. They've got the money, they got the TV, they got the power. They can put on whatever they want and make it work.
We're just going to throw some names out. What do you think of Ric Flair?
He's a man. He's a legend. I mean, greatest worker that's ever been. You know, no ands, ifs, or buts about it.
Baptista.
Nice guy. He's big. He got a long way to go before he's learned how to work. But I mean, I hope he makes it. But I mean, just another example of a giant guy that looks the part, but he's got a long way to go before he can actually carry the ball.
Hulk Hogan.
I worked with Hulk a couple times. He's the man. He's the legend. You know, I mean, he's the guy that brought it all. I can't knock Hogan. He's great.
You have anything?
Dustin Rhodes.
He spent many a morning in a bar with Dustin. Good guy. Good fucking guy. Miss him to death.
Arn Anderson.
Another guy. These are all old school dudes that love the business, that passionate, good guys, you know.
Shane Douglas.
Same thing. You know, I learned a lot from Shane. Shane was always cool to me in ECW. You know, it was always good for the company, always good for the little guys, I've worked a hell of a match with Shane one time, man, and when he was world champ and all that, and I was a little jobber, and he gave me, you know, a half-hour match. I love working with him. Good guy.
Vince McMahon.
You know, Vince is a freak. He's in his own world. You know, I mean, he's so secluded. He's got himself so cut off from the rest of the world. He's got the WWE program to have all his agents kiss his ass. I mean, he's a freak. He's so lost touch with the real world that I don't know if he could ever get his shit back. You know, but I mean, on the other hand, he always treated me well. I always got along well with Vince. I just don't think he's a real human being. I think he's a little bit of, you know, he's in his own crazy world.
Do you have anything to say to all the fans who supported you over the last 10 years plus?
Any fan who supported me knows that, I mean, the only reason anybody supported me was because I tried hard. You know, I love the business and tried hard. So anybody that appreciated that, cool, man. You know, we're all in it for the same, be it fan, be it wrestler, we're all here for the same reason, and that's to have a good time, put on a good show. And anybody that knows my work appreciates that. And we're just here to give it our all, bust some balls, have a good time. So if you're a fan, thank you. If not, fuck you. Sorry.
All right, Spike, thank you.
You know, cool.
Very good.
One question for you, Spike. Have you ever worked Flair in a one-on-one match?
Yeah, I got to work with Flair one time, and I'll be honest, it was probably the most disappointed I've ever been in myself. I finally got to work with him, and he was cool as shit before the match. You and me, Spike, we're gonna go out there, we're gonna tear it up and all that. And we went out there, and you know, we did. It's one of those things where you're calling on the fly. You know, like you don't talk about your stuff beforehand. And he wound up and he chopped me, and I started firing up on him too fast. And he was like, Spike, slow down, slow down, slow down. And I went, oh, I blew it. You know, like I'm working with Ric Flair and I was working too fast. And, you know, like it was a fucking honor. It was awesome working with him. But man, when he said slow down, I was like, oh, I fucked up. You know, and it was actually a really big disappointment that like, I didn't come through the way I wanted to come through. But I mean, on the other hand, it was still an honor working with Flair, you know. So I mean, it was cool as shit. He's a class act, and it was a blast. I'd love to have the opportunity one more time to work.
TitleMatchNetwork.com